enough of that. Welcome back to another episode. Obviously you're watching Phil's Works YouTube channel. We're back here with this little Evo chopper. For those of you that haven't watched the previous videos, this is a Wishbone framed Evo deal that I built from the ground up. My buddy Fraser, he just gave me an engine and a gearbox basically and said build me a bike. So I made this frame around engine and gearbox and front end and wheels and stuff that he gave me. He gave me a general photo of what sort of type of bike he wanted, and this is basically it. So if you haven't already, jump over to my Instagram, Phil's Works Instagram. Give me a follow over there. I post more of the little bits and pieces I do on these sorts of projects. So if you want to keep up to date, jump over there, give me a follow. Process. I'm just going to be doing all the little bits and pieces that take fucking 90% of the time. Just going to be doing oil lines, like I'll go through the complete wiring. A lot of people ask me about the wiring, so I'll go through that in depth, show you how I wire these stupid things up. Just got leads and clutches and stuff, some chain and chain guards to sort out, so not a fucking great deal, but all the little bits and pieces to make this work. So, as you can see, it's pretty well all together, like sits nice, don't mind that, I haven't bolted that on yet, but all that sort of stuff's all pretty good. It's actually quite a long bike considering it's a pretty comfy thing, and being the best big twin there is, the Evo, this thing will be fast as shit too. So really looking forward to getting this done, doing some ripping. I'll chuck some videos up for me riding this thing around, so that'll be pretty sweet. But enough of the bullshit, let's get started on this thing. I've got to put it back on the bench because I had to take a little video of this thing. If you haven't seen it, it's on my Instagram, you have to follow me there to see it. So if you want to see why this thing's off the bench, jump over there, but in the meantime, let's get this thing up on the bench and get working on it. Okay, so I got me a little fella up on the bike bench here. When it starts getting to this point in the build, you sort of struggle to work out what you should do. I find it's best to just do something. The more little jobs you tick off, the less shit you have to do. So I'm sort of waiting on some bits for my sissy bar to finish off. I'm waiting on some fucking bolts for this. I'm waiting on this. I'm waiting on that. So I'm just going to go through and finish off all the foot controls. So I've got to go through and drill the holes for my foot pegs so they can pivot like this. And on the other side, I've got to finish off the clutch side, which I've started. I've sort of nutted it out. I just need to finish it. The carby, I put the petcock and stuff on. The tank, I got my lowbrow order now, so I can run some wiring. I can put my throttle cable on. I have my regulator. I'm going to make a little trick mount to mount my regulator up here and sort of hide the front engine mounts. I've done that a couple of times. It looks pretty fucking sweet. What else? I think I might set the gearbox up, do all the primary side so that's all finished. And like I said, I'm just going to go through and just tick little jobs off just so they're done, and then when it comes to the end to fire this thing up, you know, you've done A, B, C and D already, you can just go through and get it done. So let's do the foot pegs to start with, and then we'll fucking go from there. So as you know, we went through, if you watched the last episode, if you haven't, you probably should fucking go and watch it. Bent these guys up, made these little fucking foot pegs here. So what I need to do is put them on and then drill the hole through them so that I can bolt them so they do this bullshit when you stack it, which you shouldn't be. But I'm going to go through, put those holes in. Might as well polish this bitch up a bit. I can't bolt it on yet because you have to take this off to get the exhaust off because it's super tight. So I'm just going to finish both sides and then we will pop over the other side and we will get the primary side all dialed in. Alrighty, we're over here on the B side now. I've done both my foot pegs. By that I mean I just put a hole in them. As you can see, I've drilled this out. That was fun, being a stainless steel 316 5/8 thick fucking bit of stainless. Lovely on my drill bit. So got a bolt through it now, so it does that shit now, which is good. So we can fucking knock that in there. It's not finished, like I'll have to come through and polish it again, but you know, we're fucking most of the way there. So that is that. Give her a tighten. So I want to look at my foot clutch. As you can see, I've sort of got it pretty sorted out. I'm just going to use this, fuck that's loud. I'm just going to use this stainless chain that I've got, and that's going to be my rod to the clutch arm. I personally hate fucking chains. I don't know, everyone just runs them because apparently they're cool, but they feel like absolute shit. So that's what Fraser wants, that's what he's gonna get. He'll have to work it out the hard way, that rods are the go. Anyway, so I've got that pretty well sorted out. You can probably see on my clutch arm, I've got 4 different positions, and that's so I can move the clutch leverage point up or down. So if you want more throw, but it's harder to push, you put it high. If you want less throw, but easier to push, you put it low. So that's why I did that. That pretty well all works. I've just got this tacked up. This is just like a standard clutch pedal setup that you can buy from anywhere, and it didn't really fit with my setup because this custom frame once again. So I had to cut and modify it. So I got to weld that out because it's pretty nice where it is. You have to fucking weld that out. And on the back here where it goes into the rod, I'm not going to do the normal thing that everyone just puts a fucking D-shackle on it. I'm going to put a rod through there with a ball on the back, and I'm going to weld it to one of the chain links so that you can put it through and it slides through and stays there. And then on the clutch pedal here, I'm going to put a stop both sides. So when you push your clutch in, it'll hit a stop, and when it comes back, it'll hit a stop. So you don't have this shit going on or another stupid fucking chain this direction. So I'm going to go through and do that, and we'll come back once I've got this thing sorted out. Oh, funny. Alright, so I got my little chain done. This is the little thing that I ended up making. So that is all that is, and that just goes through your clutch arm. That's why it's thin like that. So it goes through the clutch arm. The ball on the end is what it locates on. It gets stuck in the little clutch arm so you can take it off. And then let's put this on here. D-shackle goes on like that on the front. I'll put it on this. I reckon this is going to be the good adjustment on this here clutch arm. Put that on like that. Fucking there we have it. Clutch working, baby. Like I said, you can move this up or down to adjust what sort of leverage you want, but maybe one up. I'm not quite stoked on that. But that is the clutch side pretty well 100%. Obviously, I just got to paint like the base and the arm and stuff like that. That's fucking better. I'm also going to put a stop front and rear on this clutch arm so that it stops down and stops back. All right, I have the clutch completely finished now. I just wanted to show you. I welded these tabs on, right? There's two different tabs and they hit on both sides of the kickstand. So that way I've got a stop at the end of my stroke. So if you watch, at the end of the stroke there's a stop, and at the back of the stroke there's a stop. It's nothing worse than this thing folding back, or people run like a chain front ways so that this can't push back. That's the best way to do it. So you've got to stop both directions. You can't overextend your clutch and break your clutch arm or something weird and this doesn't flop back. So that is done. Just need to paint that shit and it is done. Next up, I'm gonna have a look at the primary side. I'm gonna take all this off. I'm gonna tighten up the primary belt, show you a little trick how to do that. Get that all done. Get this primary side all buttoned up. I'm gonna do a little shifter knob too, so I'm not sure what I'm doing there, but get all that buttoned up and then we'll get on to the next thing. All right, as you can see, I'm just doing my primary here. I got it all blown apart. Just a little trick, if you're doing your belt or chain, use the tensioner of the rear wheel to tighten the belt or chain. Just use your fucking tensioner. Maybe don't worry about what I got going on here. This is not the right chain. I've just got some shit mocked up. Got a chain on there, got tension on the chain, which puts tension on my belt, and then I can tighten the gearbox down and then take the tension back off the rear chain. Easy way to fucking do that. Also with these stupid Chinese or Indian fucking tin primaries, you got to make sure that you have clearance here. So I had to clearance, they had this little flange here and I had to clearance this for my belt to work. So just be aware of that because that will just gouge your belt or chain to shit. So I'm going to go ahead, put all this primary together, do all this side, and then I have no idea what I'm doing next. So we'll get back to that after I finish doing this. Alright, so I'm here playing with, I'm just trying to tick some jobs off here. So one of these jobs is going to be, I want to make a carby support from the bottom of the bolt at the back to this center of this case bolt here. Reason for that is so your heavy, like in this case is dumb supery, is like not, because this is a rigid, bouncing like this, it's going to be working on the flange, especially on a shovel. This is a big issue. So I'm going to make a little guy from here to here, and because this is off God knows what, I'm going to go through and put the right jets in it if it hasn't already, and I'm going to set all the stuff to factory settings. So I'll show you how to do that just quickly, but I'm going to go ahead and make this little guy from here to here, and then we'll look at this, I reckon. Alright, here's a little guy that I came up with. It's just a little bit of stainless that I've fucking shaped. I put this gusset in it so that the fuel hose can come out through the side beside the bore, so that's all nice. This obviously just lives in here like that. It's a super nice fit. Lives like that, and then your little bolt on the other side, wherever it is. The bottom bolt for the carburetor goes through, just like that, and that's it. So, like I said, this brace is going to stop the carby from fucking bouncing and loosening these rubbers in here on the heads, and that's how they leak and get intake leaks, and then they idle like shit and do all sorts of stuff. So that alleviates that. Like I said, little hole here for the hose to go through. So that's sweet. Now I want to go through the carburetor and make sure it's got the right jets to start with, and we'll put it back to factory settings, I reckon. So let's fucking do that. Alright, I'm just going to have a look at this here Junker S&S Super-E. If you've just bought one off some dude out the back of his truck like I have, these are probably the steps you want to go through before you put it on your bike and try and run the thing. So first off, we'll go through factory settings. So these are just like a baseline, so when you put it on, it'll run with these settings, but you'll have to tune it accordingly. So we'll just start with your idle screw. So this is your idle screw here, and it sits on this little butterfly. You just want to unscrew it until the screw doesn't touch the butterfly anymore. So just touching, and then you go half a turn, something like that. And then we'll go to our mixture. So we just want to screw this guy all the way in with your fingers. Don't use a fucking screwdriver because you'll fuck it. So just nice and firm seated, and then you want to go 1 1/4 from seated. So 1 turn and then 1/4, sweet. And then your accelerator pumper, you just want to seat this again till the spring's completely compressed. Don't do it too hard because you'll fuck the spring. So just compress like that, and then 2 whole rotations, just like that. So that's the settings pretty well done. Then now you want to take the bowl off, because I want to have a look what jets are in this thing. So I've already taken the screws off. A little trick for you players at home, this screw here that is part of the accelerator pumper is actually the other one for the bowl. So we want to pop the bowl off just like that, and we'll put this to the side for now. We want to have a look at our jets. So they have a little number on the top. You see this guy is 72 and this guy is 195. So that's your idle circuit and this is your main circuit. Now what you want to do is you want to get on your SMIC little phone here, and you go, oh, don't look at the chicken joint that I was looking at. Super E carb tuning. It'll come up with this quick guide here. So then you go download your stupid carb thing, and this is an SNS cycle thing. This guy in the corner is your approximate jetting. That's what you want to look at. So the engine we're putting it on is about an 80 cube. So we want to go this 74 to 88. So we want a 0295 intermediate. So that's what we got, and a 72 main. So we are on Augusta. So that's sick. You just want to, I've already done it, just pull them out and make sure there's no shit in them. Because, you know, the old mate before might have taken it off because it was running like shit and it just had some stuff in it. Take them off, blow them out, make sure you can see through them. Now, next is your float height. So your float height is measured when your float's completely up in the air like that. So you push down on this. This is your little guy that's connected to your fuel in, and that's your little needle that stops the fuel from coming in once the float reaches level. Now I can already see this is wrong. So the measurement is from the bottom of the float, the top of the float to the face that meets the carburetor. So the measurement is like 1/8 to 3/16. So us Aussies call that 3 mil to 5 mil. So we measure like this, and that is double. That is fucking 10 mil. So the way you change it, you just bend this little guy like that. And just give him a little fucking bend. Bing boom, bing boom, bing boom. Measure him. 4 mil. So that'll do. So that's the things you want to do before you just slap a random carburetor off fucking your cousin's, auntie's, father's, daughter's, brother's, uncle that you just bought it out of the back of his truck or whatever. So we'll slap this thing back together. Make sure your little guy goes in the right spots. Just like that. We'll put this back together, screw it up, and let's put the thing on the damn bike. Alright, so a little update of my jobs I got going on here. So the carby is now on, that's completely done. Got my little mount all sorted here. I've put the accelerator cable on now, so that is mint, that's all done. Ticking off jobs. So I've done that, I've got my points set up in here now. I finally got that. Points the world, fuck your electronic ignition, horrible to diagnose, points everything. So I got my points in here. What else am I fucking around with? Oh, I got my oil lines, so I can run all my oil lines now. I've bent all these guys up into the right spots, so they're good to go. Remember, rubber hose, don't put braid on it. It's not a fucking teenager's race car. So let's keep going around here. I've made my regulator mount that I was talking about. It's just a cheeky little L bracket off our little foot control mount here. So that's the bolt that the stand and stuff will go through. So that looks pretty fucking sweet down there. That's gonna get heaps of air on the highway, so keep it nice and cool. That's done. Painted that crap, just need to get some bolts. I've made this little mount here, so this is just for my top engine mount to the frame. Obviously, because it's custom frame, I had to make that. That's all sorted. I can probably start working on my coil. I'm gonna start running some wiring. What else did I get? Oh, my little buddies at Lowbrow, I got like a little fucking lead set up here. So I actually got a car featured bike on fucking Lowbrow, so they should really be hooking me up, but they aren't. So if you guys are watching this, fucking get at me. So do that, that'll be sweet. Got all my wiring, like I said, I'm gonna start running some wiring. I got my number plate mount here. So I'm gonna put that on and then get my tail light on, and then I can run the wiring for that. So that'll be sweet. I got my little brake switch here. I always run this style. I don't run the stupid style that goes in as the banjo bolt. They are shit. They always fail. This is the style you wanna go. So that's what I'm going on this thing. So I'm just gonna get cracking on a few of those jobs. It's not shit that you need to watch. So I'll get cracking on them. And then hopefully we're gonna be starting this thing pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. All right, just a bit of an update between all the time lapse. I have my sissy bar all sorted here. That's good to bolt on. My exhaust, I've just got to final polish that and it's done. I've started doing some wiring, as you can see. I got this mad little cloth wire off Lowbrow. Come on guys, there's another plug. I surely deserve some discount after that. I've got to go into an oil pressure switch so I can run my little oil pressure light here. So that actually flashes when there's no oil pressure. So when you're banging down the highway, you'll be able to see if something goes wrong. I've got my points all wired up, so they're good to go. What else have I done here? I've got my headlight, that's all wired up. You can probably see I have a sweet little internal cable here. So I welded this plug in when I made the frame. So I could do that, makes it super neat. Here's the end of it, so that comes out straight into the oil bag where all my wiring will be. So on that note, this is the stuff I'm gonna be using for wiring. I'm just gonna chuck this up here. So it'll just be 2 relays and some circuit breakers. I'll talk more about why we're gonna use them later. And this is what I'm gonna use for my ignition switch. So this is a mag switch off an old fighter jet from like the 1930s. So I shouldn't say jet because they're fighter plane because they're radials back then. But this is off like a Focke Wolf, I think they're called, from the 1930s. So you can see on it, it's got ignition off, mag 1, mag 2, and then mag 1 and 2. So I'm gonna use this as the ignition switch. So it'll be like ignition on, and then I'm gonna have ignition on, lights on like that. So this is a super cool little piece. Like you open this up, there's all the screws for the wiring. Mad like mechanical shit going on here. That's super cool. The only thing about using something like this is all those planes were earth positive, so I'm gonna have to work out some weird wiring to do this. But I've got a sweet little spot on the bike that I want to mount this, so I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna do all the wiring. I'm gonna run all that and put it up to there. I'm gonna do the sissy bar, put all that shit on. I'm gonna time lapse all that, and then we're gonna come back when I'm ready to do the wiring, and I'm gonna walk you through how we do that. So stay tuned for that. Let's get at it. Alright, so as you just saw, pipes are now done. They are on for the final time, so that's all sorted. Got my peg on, put my brake master on, ran all the brake lines and stuff. As soon as I went to bleed it, it's pissing out of a brand new master. So thanks for that, Chinese goodness. So I have to fix that now. Like I said, brake line's done. Got my little brake switch in there. As you can see, I've got the wires going up here. So that means the last thing on this bike pretty well. As you can see, I've got the tail light on now. Wires are just down here. If it wants to focus, wires just down there like that. So all my wiring is basically in here now. You see I just bent up some little plates down there to seat the battery in because I don't have the base on this oil bag, which is fine. This is the battery I'm gonna use. So this is just like the smallest battery I could get. It's got like 70 CCA, which doesn't matter because there's no cranking here, it's kick only. So you only have to power the coil until the bike started, and then the alternator will take over. So that guy, if I don't arc this out, just lives in there like that. So that's how he lives. And then we're gonna get on to our relays and stuff. So I'm gonna put this in here. So this is basically what I'm gonna use. This just bolts into the oil bag. I'll show you that in a second. So I run this stuff. So to start with, these are circuit breakers. So with these circuit breakers, the best thing about them is that with a normal fuse block, if you blow a fuse, you have to throw the other fuse out and replace it. That's an issue if you don't have any fuses and you got to start cutting fences or something to jam stuff in there. So these are auto reset circuit breakers. So when these sensors short, they disconnect and then they reconnect in 5 seconds time. So if the short stays there, they just reconnect, disconnect, reconnect, disconnect. They just keep doing this until you fix the short, which is 10 times better than a spade fuse because you don't have to replace them this way. And so these are the relays. So I've got 2 circuit breakers because I'm gonna run my ignition circuit and light circuit separate. So if you have a short in your light circuit, which is pretty common, the bike will still run because you've got another circuit breaker for the ignition side. So when you got a short, it'll trip this circuit breaker, but not this one. So that's why there's 2, and that's why there's 2. So if you haven't used a relay before, they are super simple. You can just go on Google and type in relay wiring, and they are super simple. This one's got an extra spade in the middle, don't worry about that. So your 30 is your main power in, so that'll come off your auxiliary side of your circuit breaker into 30 on both sides. And then it's got an 86 and 85, so 86 and 85, so that's a coil in there. So the coil just disconnects and reconnects just like this does. So one side's earth and one side's power. So what I do with this, I always run my ignition switches earth trigger. So there's only an earth through the ignition switch, so when it fucks out, it doesn't matter because it's just earthing anyway. So you'll have a power one side, earth the other. So the earth side will go to our, in this case, switch, which is our mag switch. And then I'm just going to jump 85 from 30 so that it's always got power. So then it's always connected. And then this 87, that's your power out. So that'll go to whatever you're powering. So this will go to my headlights and lights, for instance, and this will go to my ignition. So what else do I need to say about this? The reason you run one of these as well is with your stupid normal key barrel. If you're running all the power of the bike through the key barrel, you'll get your contacts, they will fucking tap and flash and stuff like that, and then your coil and stuff won't get a proper power, and then that's when you'll have faults in your bike riding it. So this is the best way to do it. This is the most trouble-free way, and this is how I've always done it. So I'm going to do a little bit of wiring on this, and then we're going to bolt this in the bike, and then I can show you the rest of it. Alright, so I have my little fuse and relay block here. I've pre-wired as much of this as I can before I put it in the bike. So basically what I got going on here, I've got my fused side of the circuit breaker going into my relays. So basically one of the wires is going into the 30, which is the power feed, and the other one is going to one side of the coil, so 85 or 86, doesn't matter. So then this side of your relay will be your earth trigger, so that'll come off your switch, or in my case, my mag. So that's pretty well all done there. I've just got this wire here that loops both of the main powers for my circuit breakers. So I'm just going to pull one wire off this to the power of my battery, and then that's both my coils, my relays powered up then. So I'm going to put this in, I'm going to do that, and then we'll go and have a look inside the bike once I've got it all bolted in. Alrighty, so that is where my little control panel will live. So I've got pretty well everything sorted out here. So this is the power, so you can see that goes down to the battery. And the earth side, I always put an earth lead onto the engine. I know a lot of people say just fucking sand your engine mounts and that'll give you a good earth and just earth to the body. I prefer doing it this way. That is just a surefire way that your engine has earth, and it needs earth for the points to work. So I've just got this little guy going to the negative on the battery, so that's that. And then if this looks daunting, it's really not. It is so simple. Literally I have 4 wires I have to power up. So I've got this black guy, that's the coil. This is tail light, Parker, and then this one is brake light. So literally these two will go together so that when this relay's on, that's just ignition, and then when I want the lights on, which will be, I think I'm going to have that all the way up, is going to be lights on. So I'll have both relays triggered, so both relays will be on, and then when I want lights off, I think I'm going to have that there, and that's going to turn off the light relay, so the headlight and everything turns off, and then I'm just going to run the ignition. So it's literally these 2 wires. So the 2 coil and brake light, they are just going to this one here, that's 87. So that is, once the relay is triggered, this delivers power. Those 2 go there. And then the headlight and the Parker light go together and they just go on the light one. And that is literally that. So I'm going to wire up those guys, and then we're going to come to our trigger. I'm going to wire this guy up. So we'll come back when I've done that. Alrighty, so I've got all that done. I'm going to stick that up there or something, don't worry about that for now. But so there's all our ignition in, there's all our lights in, that's literally it. So the last thing is the triggers. So these 85s over here are both the triggers. So whatever you're using to trigger this, whether it be just a toggle switch or maybe it's a key barrel or something, it's just going to need an earth in, and then whatever the trigger side is going to be earth out, and that's what you put onto this side of the relay. So in my case, it's this mag switch. So I've got to do an earth in. So I'm going to pull an earth off the battery. That's going to go into this box. And then I've got it so when it's, I think I'm going to do it so when it's on this mag 2, that's going to be lights. So when you jump on this thing, you can just throw it straight up and that'll be ignition on, and then 1 down, it's going to be lights. So I'm going to do something a little bit tricky with that, and I'll show you once I've done it. Alright, so I thought I'd show you this little switch before I put it in the bike. It's probably a bit easier to see and explain. So this is the ignition switch, right? This is the earth into the switch. This is what the switch is going to trigger, uses the trigger, and these are the 2 triggers out. So at the top of this, you see I have the 2 triggers, so one's ignition and one's lights. So this guy in the middle is a diode, right? So when the lights are on, I want it to trigger the ignition and the lights at the same time, but not the other way around. So when the ignition's on, I don't want the ignition to trigger the lights. So this diode is like a one-way valve. So it's going to allow the electricity to go through this direction, but not this direction. So that's how you do it. So you can buy these things from pretty much anywhere. They're just like this, super cheap. You just got to put them on a battery and work out which direction's which with a light. I just use the light to work out which direction the electricity flows. And then I've just soldered it into my little terminals to go on the relays, and then that's good to put on. So I'm going to put this on. I've got to put some heat shrink on this and cover it all up. But that's good to go. So I'm going to bolt all this into the bike, and then we're going to see if it works. Alright, so my ignition switch is mounted. I have my relays and everything in. I have my little trigger jumps in there. They're all done. So let's see what happens. So we'll go all the way up. Let's check some power at the coil. Yeah, that's power at the coil. That's sweet. So 1 down, I wanted for lights. Yep, you can hear the relays click. Rear light, tail light, all in. Let's just check coil power again. Yep, so have power and my coil in both positions, have headlights off in that position. The only thing is this fucking oil pressure light doesn't work. I have power there and everything, so I must have a faulty one. I'll have to replace that, but all this is working. I have power at my points now, so I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna set my points now, and we're gonna see if this thing will run. When this is all running and done and everything, I'm going to tidy up this wiring, but for now I'm going to leave it alone in case I have to do something. So I'm going to go through and set my points, and then let's fucking see if this thing runs. Alright, so as you just saw, I put engine oil in it, gearbox oil in it, I got the tank on now, that's got fuel in it. I did the timing, someone's put the wrong seals in the push rod tube, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to leak. So this thing's got fuel in it now, accelerator pumper works, sick. So let's try and start this thing. I haven't started it yet, so this is going to see firsthand if it's going to start or not. I've already checked for spark and I've got that, so should be right. So I'll put this thing up here. Alright, so let's see if this thing fucking starts, eh? So let's do a couple prime kicks, eh? 2 prime kicks with a bit of fuel. Alright, let's fucking do an ignition kick. Let's do another 2 prime kicks. Like I said, who knows how long it's been since this thing started. How much fuel we got in this thing? Let's load it up full of fuel and see what happens. Woohoo! That's it. Alright, let's try that again. Let's load up the fuel. 3 pumps that time. Let's see what happens. Load ignition on. That's it. Alright, let's try it again. It likes the fuel. Heaps of it. Oh. Fuck, that is loud. So it's got a lot of fucking top end noise, which, so what I was looking for in here, I was making sure the oil was returning. So if you look in your oil bag when it's running, if the oil's returning, it means the engine's getting oil. So that was returning. Still not sure why my stupid oil pressure light isn't working, because if you don't have an oil pressure light, you can always test with your test light on your oil pressure sensor. That works, so it's got oil pressure, but judging by all the push rods having the wrong O-rings and shit in them, I reckon someone's put this together and not set the push rods and shit, because this is loud. So when these hydraulic lifters get fucking oil pressure, it shuts them up straight away. So it had oil pressure and they're still loud, which tells me that someone's probably set them up wrong. So I'm going to go through, set all that up. I'm going to finish the last little bits off on this thing, and then the next time you'll see it, I'll be taking it off here and we'll be taking this thing for a rip. So cannot wait for that. Stay tuned and I will get this thing all finished up and going. So let's fucking do it. Alright, so I've pretty well got this thing dialed in now. I've had to take it on a few shakedown rides, had some teething issues and whatnot, but that's to be expected for something like this. A few of the boys are taking their choppers out for some beers in the city tonight, so I'm going to take this thing along and see how it goes, get some footage and whatnot. I'll post it up, a little link in the next video, so give that a watch.